Welcome to month 2 of the QA lead track. Last month we built a quality vision and strategy. Today we build the people capability to execute it. Strategy without people management is just a document. As a QA lead, your biggest constraint is not process or tooling. It is the growth and engagement of your team. If your engineers are disengaged, undertrained, or unclear on their career path, your quality strategy will fail, even if it was perfectly designed. Today covers 4 concrete skill sets: running effective one-on-one meetings, delivering QA-specific feedback, writing performance reviews that actually develop people, and building career plans that retain your best engineers. These are the human levers that make everything else in your quality practice work. Month 1 was strategy. Month 2 is people. These are the 2 halves of QA leadership. QA work is uniquely difficult to observe from the outside. A developer's output is visible in commits and features. A QA engineer's output, coverage analysis, risk identification, exploratory test depth, is invisible to most stakeholders. That invisibility creates specific feedback and management challenges that generic management training never addresses. Today's 4 pillars address those challenges directly. First, one-on-one meeting mastery. The weekly one-on-one is your highest leverage management tool. A well-run one-on-one surfaces quality risks before they become incidents and builds the kind of trust that makes your team honest with you. Second, feedback frameworks. Generic feedback does not change behavior. QA-specific feedback names the testing behavior and the quality impact, so engineers know exactly what to do differently. Third, performance management. 5 QA-specific performance dimensions that go beyond generic ratings and give you a fair, evidence-based framework for assessing real QA work. Fourth, career development. 2 tracks, 6 levels, concrete milestones. Engineers who see a future in QA stay in QA. 5 learning objectives shape this session, and each one connects to a leadership reality you will face. The first is conducting effective QA one-on-one meetings, not just asking how the tests are going, but using structured conversations to surface risk, build trust, and identify blockers before they become sprint failures. The second is delivering constructive feedback specific to QA work. You will apply the SBI model, situation, behavior, impact, to real QA scenarios. Late automation delivery, excellent exploratory test finds, collaboration issues between QA and development. The third is writing and delivering performance reviews for QA engineers. 5 dimensions specific to QA work: technical quality, delivery, collaboration, leadership, and growth. Not the generic HR framework that could apply to any employee. The fourth is creating QA-specific career development plans. How many of your senior QA engineers know what they need to do to become a QA lead? Or what distinguishes a staff QA from a principal QA? Career clarity is a retention tool, and most QA teams fail to provide it. The fifth is navigating difficult conversations about quality and performance. Quality versus speed is one of the most common conflicts a QA lead faces. An engineer says the code is not ready. The team says ship it. You will learn to navigate that without damaging either relationship. 4 hours, 4 pillars. Each hour builds on the previous one. Hour 1 is one-on-one meeting mastery. The structure of an effective 30-minute one-on-one. 5 QA-specific topic categories to rotate through, and 4 role-play scenarios drawn from real QA team dynamics. Hour 2 is feedback frameworks. The SBI model applied to QA work, a complete positive feedback example, a complete constructive feedback example, and practice delivering feedback in pairs. Hour 3 is performance management. 5 QA performance dimensions with specific indicators and evidence sources, a rating scale, and the structure of a QA performance review. Hour 4 is career development. The QA career ladder from junior QA to QA director, the IC track versus the management track split at senior, and creating real development plans for engineers at different levels. Each hour ends with an application exercise. Theory without practice is just information. The challenge at the end of the session requires integrating all 4 pillars into a complete people management toolkit for a realistic QA team. The 1-1 is your most important management tool. Used well, it surfaces quality risks before they become incidents and builds the trust your team needs to be honest with you. The first principle is that the 1-1-1 belongs to your engineer, not to you. The agenda is theirs. Your job is to listen, ask, and unblock, not to status report, assign work, or deliver a mini stand-up. If you are doing most of the talking in a 1-1, you are running the wrong kind of meeting. The second principle is that QA work is often invisible. Automation debt, flaky test patterns, coverage gaps, these do not surface in sprint reviews. They surface in 1-1s if you know what questions to ask. The 1-1 is where a QA lead hears these signals early, before they become production incidents. The third principle is that consistency beats intensity. A 90-minute deep dive that gets canceled half the time is worth less than a 30-minute meeting that always happens. Trust is built by showing up. Your engineer needs to know that this conversation is guaranteed, not optional, not canceled when the sprint gets busy, not rescheduled when something more important comes up. 5 topic categories to rotate through your 1-1s deliberately. Not all 5 in every session. Pick 1 or 2 per meeting, and go deep. Quality. What quality risks are you most concerned about right now? This is the question every QA lead should ask every week. You will be surprised what surfaces when you ask it directly. Coverage gaps, flaky tests, environments that are unreliable. These are risks your engineer knows about and needs a space to raise. Skills. What automation skill do you want to build next quarter? This drives career conversations before they become urgent, and it shapes how you assign work. Collaboration. How is your partnership with developers going? Dev-QA friction is one of the most common team health issues. Catching it in a 1-1-1 lets you address it before it damages the cross-functional relationship and starts affecting release quality. Blockers. What is slowing down your testing the most? Environment issues, unclear requirements, access problems. These are solvable if you know about them. Most blockers persist longer than they need to because no one thinks to ask. Growth. Where do you see your QA career heading? Ask at least once per quarter. The answer informs every assignment and development decision you make about this engineer. A concrete structure for a 30-minute 1-on-1, not a rigid script, but a rhythm that covers what matters without letting any one topic consume the whole meeting. The opening is 5 minutes. A personal check-in. How are they doing today? Not just professionally. Energy level matters. If someone is exhausted or dealing with something difficult outside work, a strategic discussion is not what they need from the next 25 minutes. Their agenda is 15 minutes. This is the core of the meeting. Current testing challenges, quality risks, automation blockers, career conversations. Their agenda drives this section. If you have not asked what's on your agenda for today, at the start of every 1-on-1, start now. Your agenda is 5 minutes. One piece of prepared feedback, team context or expectation alignment. Keep it to one thing. More than one topic in your agenda dilutes both. Come prepared with something specific. A 1-on-1, where you have nothing to add, is a 1-1, where you have stopped observing your team. Action items are 5 minutes. Clear next steps for both of you. not just their actions. Yours. If you committed to remove a blocker or get them access to an environment, write it down and do it before the next meeting. Following through on what you promised is the fastest way to build trust. One rule that matters more than the structure: never use the 1-1 to assign test tasks. Sprint work lives in stand-ups. Mixing task assignment into the 1-by-1 signals that the meeting belongs to you, not to them. 4 role-play scenarios drawn from real QA team dynamics. Each represents a situation you will encounter as a QA lead. Scenario 1 is a junior QA, assigned to write playwright tests, who keeps getting stuck and misses 2 sprints without asking for help. The challenge is surfacing the real blocker without making them feel watched or judged. The surface answer might be that they are overwhelmed. The real answer might be that they need pairing sessions, or that the test environment is broken, or that they are too embarrassed to admit they have never written playwright tests before. Scenario 2 is your best technical QA engineer, who tells you they want to become a QA lead. You are not sure they are ready for people management. The challenge is affirming their ambition, while being honest about the specific readiness gaps. What are those gaps? How do you describe them in a way that creates a development path rather than a dead end? Scenario 3 is a QA engineer who is frustrated that developers push code with known issues and who feels pressure to approve releases they are not confident in. The challenge is validating their concern and giving them a path forward without creating an adversarial relationship with the dev team. Scenario 4 is a mid-level QA who has missed test completion deadlines in 3 consecutive sprints and says they are just busy. The challenge is moving past the surface answer to the real cause, whether that is estimation problems, unclear requirements, capacity issues, or something personal that the engineer is not volunteering. Feedback is the mechanism by which your team improves, but most QA leads give feedback that is either too vague to act on, or so blunt that it damages trust. The SBI model solves both problems. SBI stands for situation, behavior, impact. 3 elements that together create feedback that is specific, observable, and actionable, without making it personal. Situation anchors the feedback to a real event, not lately or in general, a specific sprint, release, testing session, or moment you can both recall. Specificity creates credibility. Without it, the feedback feels like a general impression rather than an observation. Behavior describes only what you observed, what you saw, heard, or read, not intent, not attitude, not what you think the behavior means about the person. If you saw a bug report submitted at 4:55 p.m. on release day, that is a behavior. You do not care about quality is a judgment, not a behavior. Impact names the consequence in QA terms. Coverage gaps, escape defects, delayed releases, team trust, release confidence. This is where you connect what the engineer did, or did not do, to what the team and the business actually experienced. Without the impact, feedback sounds like criticism. With the impact, it sounds like information. The reason SBI works specifically for QA is that testing work is often invisible to non-QAs. The model forces you to make the specific testing behavior visible and to name the quality outcome it produced. That is what makes feedback actionable instead of personal. Positive feedback done well is not just praise. It is a quality standard that the whole team can observe and replicate. Here is a complete positive example grounded in a real QA scenario. Situation: during the checkout release last week, when the team was under pressure to sign off quickly. Behavior: you went beyond the scripted test cases and ran exploratory testing on the payment edge cases, specifically the multi-currency rounding path. Impact: you found a defect that would have caused $50,000 in revenue discrepancies. The dev team trust in QA thoroughness increased noticeably after that find. 3 principles for delivering positive SBI effectively. Timing: deliver within 48 hours of the behavior. Delayed recognition loses its specificity and feels like an afterthought. Same day is ideal. Recognition that arrives a month later has limited effect on behavior. Public versus private. Positive feedback can go public. A team meeting, a Slack channel. It sets a quality standard others can observe and replicate. The engineer knows what excellent looks like, and the team sees it recognized. Unlike constructive feedback, public positive SBI builds team culture rather than eroding it. Documentation. Add it to your performance notes immediately. When review season comes 6 months later, specific examples from your notes are worth 10 times more than vague positive impressions. The habit of documenting SBI moments turns one-on-one observations into review evidence. Constructive feedback is harder to deliver and harder to receive. The SBI structure keeps it from becoming an argument or a character assessment. Here is a complete constructive feedback example. Situation: in the last sprint during the payment feature development cycle. Behavior: the automation tests for the new feature were delivered 1 week after the deadline. You did not inform me about the delay until the end of sprint retrospective. Impact: the team could not run regression on schedule. This delayed the release by 3 days and caused unplanned overtime. 3 delivery principles that separate effective constructive feedback from damaging it. Always private. Constructive feedback is a private one-on-one conversation. Never Slack, never in front of the team. Protecting dignity is non-negotiable. Public correction destroys psychological safety and signals to everyone watching that failure is punished rather than addressed. Ask, do not tell. After naming the impact, ask, what caused the delay? You may learn about environment issues, unclear requirements, or personal blockers you did not know about. The behavior was real, but your interpretation of why it happened might be wrong. Asking turns the conversation from accusation to problem solving. Forward focus. End with, what would help you flag this earlier next time? The goal is change behavior going forward, not processed guilt about the past. Feedback that ends with a question about the future is more likely to produce behavioral change than feedback that ends with a statement about the past. A performance review is the formal record of what you have been observing all year. If it surprises your engineer, you have not been giving enough ongoing feedback. That is the no surprises rule. Every rating in a review should reflect feedback you have already delivered verbally in one-on-ones. A review is a summary, not a revelation. An engineer who receives a below expectations rating in November should have heard that feedback in June, in August, and in October, with time and support to improve. Evidence over impression. Use your one-on-one notes, bug reports, automation commits, and release sign-offs as evidence. Good team player with no examples is not a review. It is a guest dressed up as an assessment. The difference between a fair review and an unfair one is almost always the quality of the evidence. Development forward, not judgment back. The most important section of any QA review is the development goals. What will this engineer be able to do in the next 6 months that they cannot do today? If your reviews spend more time assessing the past than planning the future, you are missing the primary purpose of the exercise. QA performance is harder to measure than development performance. Lines of code is a bad proxy. Test case count is a bad proxy. Bug count is a particularly bad proxy because it incentivizes quantity over quality. You need QA-specific dimensions, and that is what the next slide covers. 5 performance dimensions specific to QA work, each with indicators and evidence sources. Technical quality covers test coverage percentage, automation rate, bug escape rate, defect severity accuracy, and flaky test ratio. Evidence comes from test reports, CI pipeline data, and production incident logs, not from your gut feeling about someone's skill level. Delivery covers test completion by sprint, deadline adherence, release sign-off confidence, and estimation accuracy. Evidence comes from sprint velocity data, your 1/1 records, and release timelines. Missed deadlines need to be tracked, not held as grievances, but documented so you can identify patterns and address them specifically. Collaboration covers dev partnership quality, defect report tone, requirements engagement, and cross-team communication. Evidence comes from 360 feedback and your direct observation of meeting participation. A QA engineer who writes bug reports that consistently start arguments is a collaboration issue, and it belongs in a performance review if it is affecting team dynamics. Leadership covers mentoring contributions, process improvement proposals, and knowledge sharing. For junior and mid-level engineers, this dimension is often developing, and that is appropriate. For senior QA, you should expect to see it. The absence of any leadership contribution at the senior level is worth addressing explicitly. Growth covers skills added, training completed, certifications, and ownership of new testing domains. Growth is the leading indicator for retention. Engineers who are learning and expanding their capability stay engaged and stay on the team. A complete QA performance review has 5 components that work together to create a fair, forward-looking assessment. The rating scale has 4 levels: exceeds, meets, developing, and below. Rate each of the 5 dimensions separately. The overall rating is not a mathematical average. It reflects pattern and trajectory. An engineer who exceeds in technical quality and meets everything else is a different profile than one who meets everything but is developing in leadership. Both might receive the same overall rating but need completely different development plans. What they did is the section for specific behaviors and outputs. Not was helpful, but led the regression suite migration to Playwright. 85% coverage achieved. Verbs and numbers. If you cannot write this section with specific examples, you have not been observing closely enough. Impact is the outcome on the team, product, or quality metrics. Numbers preferred. Saved 20 hours per week of manual testing and enabled daily deployments by reducing regression time from 4 hours to 35 minutes are real impact statements. Made a positive contribution is not. Areas for growth is 2 or 3 specific behaviors to develop, not personality traits. Improve estimation accuracy for complex automation tasks, not be more reliable. Behavioral, specific, and actionable. The development goals section is the most important part of the review. Write 2 or 3 concrete goals for the next 6 months. Each goal should answer, what will this person be able to do that they cannot do today? Tie goals to the career ladder level they are targeting next. Growth without direction is just busy work. Your engineers need to know there is a future in QA. Without a visible career ladder, your best people will look elsewhere, usually toward development roles. This happens consistently in organizations that do not invest in career visibility. The career conversation is yours to start. Most engineers will not bring up career goals unprompted, either because they assume there is no path or because they do not want to seem presumptuous. Ask quarterly, where do you want to be in 12 months? Hold that answer in every decision you make about their work. What they get assigned, who mentors them, which conferences or training opportunities they access. QA has 2 valid paths after senior. The individual contributor track goes from senior QA to staff or principal QA. engineers who want to drive technical architecture and quality standards without managing people. The management track goes from senior QA to QA lead to QA manager and eventually QA director. Both tracks are equally valuable. A principal QA who owns the test architecture for a major product line is as strategically important as a QA manager with a team of 8. Make sure your engineers know that. Skills gap analysis comes before the development plan. Before writing goals, identify where this person is today on each skill dimension versus where the next level requires them to be. The plan bridges that gap specifically. It does not just add activities. A development plan that lists courses without identifying the gap being addressed is not a plan. It is a schedule. 6 levels. 2 tracks after senior. Understanding this ladder is the prerequisite for building meaningful development plans. Junior QA engineer, fundamentals, supported execution, active learning. At this level, your job as a lead is to provide structure and safety. A junior QA should never be working without someone available to ask. QA engineer, execution, automation ownership, growing domain coverage. They take ownership of a test area and drive it without daily hand-holding. The transition from junior to QA engineer happens when an engineer stops needing to be told what to test and starts identifying what needs testing. Senior QA engineer, deep expertise, mentoring, leading quality initiatives independently. This is where many QA engineers plateau. The jump to staff or QA lead requires a fundamentally different kind of contribution, not just doing quality work, but multiplying the quality work of others. At senior, the path splits into 2 tracks. Staff and principal QA engineer is the individual contributor track. Technical leadership, architecture decisions, organization-wide standards. This is the IC equivalent of QA lead. It is a rare and valuable role that many organizations fail to create, which is why they lose senior engineers who want depth without management. QA manager and QA lead is the people management track. Team leadership, hiring, planning, cross-team quality strategy. This is the track this program is preparing you for. QA director sits at the top. Strategy, organizational design, and executive stakeholder management. This is where quality becomes a business function reported at the board level. Know which track each engineer wants. Applying the same development plan to a senior QA on the IC track and one targeting QA lead is a management failure. They need completely different goals, mentors, and opportunities. The challenge for this session: you lead a QA team of 6, 1 senior, 3 mid-level, and 2 junior engineers. Each has unique challenges and career aspirations. Build the people management toolkit they deserve. 4 deliverables, each worth 25 points. First, a QA 1-1-1 meeting framework, a 30-minute structure, a question bank organized by level, junior, mid, and senior, a cadence guide, and a documentation template. Specific enough that a QA lead could hand it to someone new and have them run effective 1-1s from day 1. Second, QA performance reviews. Full reviews for a senior QA rated exceeds and a junior QA rated meets, using all 5 performance dimensions with specific, realistic examples. Not generic descriptions, examples grounded in actual QA work. Third, feedback scenarios using SBI. 4 complete scenarios, a late automation delivery, an excellent exploratory testing find, a collaboration issue between QA and development, and a skill gap in test strategy planning. Each scenario includes the full SBI statement and the next action you would take after delivering the feedback. Fourth, QA career development plans. 12-month plans for a senior QA targeting a QA lead role and a junior QA targeting mid-level. Each plan should include specific milestones, skills to develop, success metrics, and how you would track progress in 1-1s. The best development plans in this challenge name the specific skill gap, the activity designed to bridge it, the evidence of success, and the timeline for each goal. 4 hours. 4 pillars of QA people management. Here is what this session covered. 60 minutes on 1-1-1 meeting mastery, the 3 principles of an effective 1-1, 5 QA-specific topic categories, a concrete 30-minute structure, and 4 role-play scenarios from real QA team dynamics. 60 minutes on feedback frameworks, the SBI model applied to QA work, a complete positive feedback example with a 50,000 quality impact, a constructive feedback example with delivery principles, and the difference between feedback that changes behavior and feedback that just creates discomfort. 60 minutes on performance management, 5 QA-specific performance dimensions with indicators and evidence sources, a 4-level rating scale, and a review structure built around development goals, not just backward-looking assessment. 60 minutes on career development, the QA career ladder from junior to director, the IC track and management track split at senior, and the importance of knowing which track each engineer wants before writing any development plan. Month 3 is QA process design and metrics leadership. It takes the people management foundation built today and connects it to measurable team outcomes. How to design test processes that scale, how to build quality dashboards that executives use, and how to set team-level quality OKRs that connect individual performance to organizational goals. The biggest difference between a technical QA professional and a QA lead is not test strategy. It is the ability to grow other people. The engineers who report to you are the multiplier on your quality vision. Invest in them deliberately, and they will carry your strategy further than you could ever carry it alone. This is month 2 of 6 in the QA lead track.